Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler Rohde. I sit down with comics and talk to them about comedy and various other things. All I ask of you is to like and subscribe, and let's get on with the show. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sitting down with Rob Brackenridge and Chris Monty. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Good, man. Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Don't mention. Alright. Small, simple, easy question as I always love to start out with. Let's start with Rob.
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin. I was conceived and raised in the coldest place in the world. It's
A lot of cheese.
Yeah, cheese. We eat lots of cheese. We're all bound up. Then I moved off to Minneapolis and then Los Angeles, and now I'm back in Wisconsin again.
Cool.
Where it's safe to get in your car.
It's white America.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's very. I mean, there's a reason why everyone says it's the nicest place in the world. Just everyone's so nice. I don't know why. And it's fun working with Chris this week because he's from New York.
Yeah.
So he's got the New York
attitude.
Yeah,
The
he's got the attitude, and everybody's like either you got to be a name, a number, and a body part. So it's oh Chrissy Two Tits over here. How you doing, there, Chrissy?
Yeah.
And in Wisconsin, we're like, hi there, neighbor Rooney.
It's like, he's like, I love hanging out with him. It's like a cartoon, It's like hanging out with a cartoon.
I think the same way. It's just wherever you're from,
It's so funny.
I think I talk normal. I didn't know I said bag. Some guy said, oh, yeah, where's my bag? And he's like, bag? It's pronounced bag.
Yeah.
And
We
I'm
say
like,
bag in New York, too, so
Oh,
it's
you
the
do?
same thing, yeah. We say coffee.
Coffee, yeah. No whoop. No big whoop.
Yeah, dog. Instead of a dog, it's a dog. Or it's water. See, it's water everywhere else. It's water by us.
Yeah.
you know?
Water.
Yeah. So obviously I'm from New York. That's where I grew up.
Yeah. How was it to grow up in New York? I always hear different things with it, but...
What do you hear? It depends where you grow up. If you grow up in the suburbs. I grew up it was a few miles outside of the city area in a suburban neighborhood with a house and a backyard and everything. So, but it's still very busy. It's still very populated and very busy. And we hung out on the street. That's what we did. You don't see kids hanging out on the street anymore in any neighborhoods. I think maybe with you guys, but
No, we'd freeze to death. We stay inside.
But we used to hang out on the streets. We played, kick the can, ring the doorbell and run away, and we played stickball and wiffle ball.
ditch.
Yeah, we played sports in the street, and so the neighbors would yell at the older retired neighbors would always bitch and get off my lawn, don't get the ball in my flower bed and all that. And our parents were like, would rather have us playing outside because they knew where we were. So I grew up in a cool neighborhood. That's how New York is. New York is everybody hangs out inside on the stoop. We call them, instead of some people say porch, we call it a stoop.
Yep.
We hang out on the stoop. We hang out on the front yard, and it was really cool. We had a lot of kids in my neighborhood, so it was great. It was great for comedy because a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now of course if you would tell any kids these days about the words you just said, they'd be like, what are that? What's wiffle? What's wiffle? What's wit?
Yeah, what's
wiffle
stickleball?
What's
ball?
kick the can? Yeah.
Yeah,
they
what's
would
kick
know.
the can?
Everyone.
Do you know what kick the can is?
Sounds familiar. I think I might know, but just refresh.
It was like a version of hide and seek, and one guy was it. And so the kids, you'd play within a radius of, like one block, or say you can go from this house to this house. Those are the spots the kids can hide. So the one guy would count to whatever, 50 or 100, and everybody'd hide. And then you have a can, like a coffee can, on the street, and you'd have to tap it, and you say, let's say I spotted you behind a car hiding. That's a tap, tap, tap. I see Tyler behind the blue car in front of, Mrs. Lewinsky's house. And then you'd come out. Now you're in jail. And the only way you get out is somebody that I don't see coming kicks the can and then sets you free, and you run and hide again. It was, and we used to play that all hours of the night.
Yeah.
Until we found out about beer.
And then, yeah, that's
and
right.
girls. And then we stopped playing kick the can.
Then it was a different type of kick the can.
Yeah. It was tap the can.
No kicking there.
Yeah.
It's the Me Too generation.
Yeah. But it was fun, man. Neighborhood games like that. And we'd play, we played everything. Cops and robbers and I was always the cops, never the good guy.
Yeah. We always
you're
play
good.
World War II, and I was always the German. So when you get shot, you go 9. But kids just play on video games now, and not only do they just play video games, they watch other people play video games.
Right, they play again. They can watch, and they.
Well, they're not even interacting. They're just watching some guy play.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about sports.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but that's different, like watching sports, but watching somebody else play a game,
Right.
Because
I mean, at least when you're watching sports, you're watching overpaid babies,
we used to do that though. I think in the '80s, in the arcade era, when arcades became big.
That's true.
And
There's
somebody
Pac-Man.
was on Pac-Man. All the kids would be gathered around. If the guy kept going to different levels, you'd all gather around and watch him play the game, see if he could beat the machine.
Yeah.
But today it's all internet, cell phone. Video games. Kids don't, I don't see, at least in where I live, I don't see kids playing, unless it's an organized school sport. I don't see them on their own in the street. We used to play roller hockey. We played everything,
Yep.
Yeah.
Different world.
I remember, because, I'm still kind of young,
Very young. How old
How
are
old are
you?
you, Tyler?
16.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's just a baby.
I got underwear 16. To quote Cuda.
Cuda Douglas, by the way, who's MCing all week.
Yeah, he's been doing comedy so long that he wrote that.
Yeah. Yep. He was the comic at the Last Supper. I think.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't know what the hell he was talking about back then.
How about that Pontius Pilate?
Yeah. Oh man. Who ordered the fish? I'll be here all week trying to fish.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about Cooter, because if we, sometimes we, on the rare occasions, don't have Cooter here.
Mhm.
Whenever we don't have Cooter here, people will literally say, "Oh, Cooter's not here? Okay," and they'll walk out.
They'd lead, yeah.
Even though they've seen Cooter
A million
hundreds
times.
They
of
love him
times.
though. He's lovable. He's
Yep.
lovable.
He's fun to watch. That's the sign of a good comedian is you know the material and you'll still sit through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anticipate some of the jokes that you want to hear.
They get mad sometimes if you like. People have come up to me after a show and said, "How come you didn't do the blah blah bit?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I haven't done that for a while." They want us.
Well, I was with
Yeah.
Dom Herrera.
Oh, yeah,
Dom?
I love Dom.
And we were working together up in Wildwood, New Jersey.
That doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah. One of the funniest guys. But he is on stage and they're yelling out, requesting his some of his classic
Right.
bits. And he said to them, he goes, "Folks, that was 22 years ago." He goes, "I've written some new shit." He goes, "Look," then he would do at the end of every show, he'd say, "Let me get through all the stuff I want to talk about, and then I'll take your requests."
Yeah.
He's like really good like that with his fans. But yeah, some people want to hear the old bits over and over again.
Yep.
Yeah, but then again, you could also think, what if you go to a Pink Floyd concert and then you don't hear "Comfortably Numb" or any of
Right.
those?
It's like my father said to me. My father will request a few jokes that he likes from my act that I don't do anymore. And if he's coming to a show with friends, he'll say, "Can you do the bit about?" I have this bit about Jesus being Italian. He goes, "Can you do the Jesus Italian bit?" So I'll say, "Okay, I'll do it." But I said, "I don't really do it anymore because you've heard it a million times."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, I've heard Sinatra sing my way a million times, and I always still like to listen to it."
Yeah.
You know.
And the way if you do a bit correctly, you're living it on stage. So
Right.
it's
You're in
like
the
a
moment.
good actor will live his role, and he's not really just reciting stuff. He's making those words like it's the first time he ever said it. And that's
Right.
what, So people that are sitting there in the audience, even though they've heard the bit before, you're delivering it like it's the first time you ever did it. and it
Right.
makes
Like
it
they're
worse.
watching that scene in a movie again for the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And that's always a funny thing about comedy. Ironic funny thing about comedy. Huh. Is that you have all these different comics with this, with a similar, whatever act to the one that they've had forever,
Mhm.
but yet people still listen to them.
Yep. I mean, unless you burn it on TV, if you don't burn that material on TV,
Right.
A friend of mine just he did that dry bar comedy thing, and he got 100 million views on it, and now he's been doing comedy for 35 years, and he's just been doing pretty much the same act. He opens for big name stars, singers and stuff like that. And he's been doing the same act basically for a long time.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of bummed because he goes, now people are coming, and I got to write new material after 35 years.
I try to always have hour every year, or at least a new 40 minutes, because I get tired of it. But I did a special. It's actually right now on Amazon Prime, so check that out, listeners. What's the worst that can happen on Amazon Prime? It's like a 52-minute stand-up,
Cool.
right? But everything I did in that, I'm not repeating now. Because people are seeing that. Yeah, I sell it at my shows, the DVD, and people see that. So the people like who come here this week, they're seeing me do a different 45 minutes, 50 minutes than if they go watch. I tell them, if you go watch that special, you'll see a whole different show.
Yeah.
You know, but it's hard. You know, you get But when I did the special, I basically had 19 years of the best of me I could put into that special, because I knew nobody's seen me before, so I can do these jokes. And there's a lot of stuff in that show that, like old material, I don't even do anymore, because it just,
You retired.
because I was living, when I first started in this business, I was 25 years old. I was living in my parents' house. I had a lot of jokes about living with them, and and that's not my life anymore. So, I moved on from it.
Like fat guys that get skinny. They
Right.
can't do their
Oh,
fat
they
guy
lose
jokes
30
anymore.
minutes of material right there.
Yeah. All right. So, how about we move on to a slightly different subject? I think I may have brought a little bit of it about before. What kind of music do you listen to?
I like jazz.
That's so funny you said that. That's my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. It's calming. I got into jazz when I lived in Los Angeles because it's so nerve-wracking driving around that I would just put the jazz station on, and it kind of soothes you. And I just and I've always liked jazz. It seems like a more improv-y kind of way to.
And it's the only one little history lesson, young man. It is actually the only music in our country that is pure American music. Everything else we've taken, rock and roll, country, whatever, we've taken that all from Europe and from other countries. But jazz and blues were born in this country.
Yeah.
So that's really, as an American, that's our cultural music. But you go around the country, 90% of Americans they don't listen to jazz. It's only like in the cities,
Yeah.
In St. Louis, in Chicago, in L.A., in New York, in New Orleans. But then you go to like here, I can't find a jazz station in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It's sacrilegious down here.
Yeah, every other place has like a 94.7 The Wave or something.
Right.
They'll call it the Avenue. They call it in Wisconsin, but it's always a jazz. And I can't find any jazz stations.
No, I have my own on my phone, my own playlist, and I actually have an app for a radio. I can get my New York jazz station right on my phone from Simple Radio app. So check that out.
With the new technology, you don't really have to listen to terrestrial radio anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And the genre I love is blues and
I love blues, yeah.
blues
Yep.
rock.
Yeah.
Blues and blues rock.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm very I love rock and roll. I love classic rock and roll. I love soft rock and roll. I love. I'm not a big country music fan, but if I am, I like the older country stars,
Yeah.
the Hank Williams and the Patsy Clines and the stuff like that.
Because modern country is almost rock now. I think.
Yeah. Which
You know?
is kind of funny because now, for the most part, the mainstream kind of music is either the I almost want to say pretty much pop, which is just a bunch of people with different electronics putting these sounds together and
Right.
having someone sing over it.
Yep.
Right, like we did in the 80s and 90s with like techno and club music. It was in
Brian Eno did that whole album that was, he used all electronic. He was one of the first guys, and if you ever go through to the Chicago airport, you can hear the Brian Eno music.
Yeah.
But what happened was Brian Eno did it all by himself in a studio, and then Mark Stewart is Paul Simon's lead guitarist. He took all of Brian Eno's music and did it with real instruments.
Oh, that's cool.
And it took a long time for him to do. And when Brian listened to that, he went, "Yep, that's exactly what I had in mind when I wanted to do it, but I just didn't have the resources.
Right.
So I had to do it electronically."
That's cool. So you get a little lesson here.
Yeah, we're learning shit.
As it were.
As it were. There's certain aspects I find to the jazz very stimulating. That's one of my characters. I guess.
That's my favorite character when he does
It's
his
actually a
song.
combination of two professors I had in college.
Right.
Ben Schneier and Bill Cheney. So I combined the two of them together.
Yeah, but country is really the only one that still has major actual instruments there. A lot of them, if they do have instruments, are in the background, and then country is really the only one in the foreground that
Yeah.
still has instruments.
Right. And like I said, in jazz and blues, it's all instrument. I mean, you can go to, there's a dozen jazz clubs in New York City and just listen to instrumental, not even with singers.
Yeah.
Listen to them just play. And like you said, it's almost like it's like a trip because
Yeah.
they're just all spiraling at different times. It's like,
And it can go off on tangents too.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a lot of music.
right. So,
What is I don't know that much about jazz, so I'm gonna ask more about like blues, maybe blues rock. What's your favorite just like band or singer that's not jazz?
blues or just in general?
Let's go with general.
Well, I'm an old soul, so I'm a big fan of Sinatra and I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite singers of all time to this day that is my go-to for soothing and relaxing when I'm in the car is Nat King Cole. I just love Nat King
great.
Cole. Big fan of his. And my favorite singer of all time, I'd have to say, is Ella Fitzgerald. She's a female jazz, but she could sing ballads, she could sing jazz, she could scat. So that's my go-to, chill. If I'm cooking at home and I'm getting ready for a date night with the wife and filling up the wine glass, I either have Ella on or Nat Cole
And
on.
that can that can be romantic too. you
Right.
know?
It could be swinging, it could be romantic, it could
And
be fun.
Christmas time, I wouldn't be the
can't-
same without Nat.
Nope.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
great. Yeah.
Written by Mr. Mel Torme, by the way. He wrote
Really?
that song. Yeah.
He wrote it?
Mel Torme wrote
I
it.
thought that was one of those old ones that was written.
Yeah, it was old. It was written in the 40s, but it was written by Mel Torme. The jazz, the Velvet Fog. As they call
The
it.
Velvet Fog. Is
The
he still
Velvet-
with us? Did we lose him?
We lost him.
Ah,
We lost most of the greats.
yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands is Pink Floyd
Love Pink Floyd.
because they're just
Oh, yeah.
absolutely combining all the aspects of rock, blues, and even their own little twist on different things.
Right.
Like jazz with their wonderful saxophone solos, and all that just wonderful combinations of different music.
Rock and roll. I was growing up. I was Queen was one of my favorite
yeah.
groups
Queen.
of all time because they had that too. They could be symphonic. They could be rock and roll. They could be pop. They could be dance. They were just. I loved
And
Queen.
Journey, I used to listen to all the time. I love them.
Yeah.
I think they even had a thrash metal song, Queen.
Yeah. They had a lot of. It's a shame we lost Freddie.
We
Yeah.
lost him. We're bringing this whole podcast down by talking about dead people.
He's dead.
He's dead.
Oh, why don't we continue? Let's go with Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh yeah. I love Stevie Ray.
Oh yeah.
Hendrix I love too.
He
but-
died in Wisconsin,
Oh,
flying
okay.
from Alpine Valley. They were flying in the fog, and he crashed into the side of a mountain. Your thing went off there.
Yeah.
Oh, that just does that every once in a while.
Yeah.
By thing he meant the computer screen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I forgot they can't see.
They
it.
can't see us.
Oh, they're doing it naked, huh?
Towel, please.
Clean up in aisle 3.
So Yins have to travel a lot.
Yes.
What's your preferred method?
Driving. I used to like flying, but it's just such a hassle. And on this trip, I drove all the way from Wisconsin, so that's like 16-hour drive, you know.
Oof, that's brutal.
I
drove-
know,
yeah.
but I don't do it in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
I break
8
it up.
and 8, right?
Yep. Stay at a cheap motel, and I prefer that to flying now.
Yeah, I fly. I do. I like getting there quicker. You know, like I do a lot of Florida gigs from New York, and it's a 2.5-hour flight. It's a 20-hour drive. But driving, I've been in and out of the airport so much. I agree with him. Just the whole boarding process and the whole, and it's always delayed, and it's really annoying. At least when
Yeah.
you're driving, I can leave at this time. I can stop when
And you
I
have more
want.
control when you're driving.
Yeah, so I mean, but I guess I would say I prefer driving to the gigs, but sometimes when I'm in that drive home from like Sunday morning when I'm driving home from here,
Yeah.
part of me is going to be like, I wish I could be home. It's an hour and a half flight, I wish I could be home that quick,
Yeah.
But I'll I guess I prefer.
And
driving.
now with podcasts, you can listen to podcasts, while you're driving, and it makes the time go
Yeah.
by quick.
Right, you can listen to podcasts. I got an iPod. I got my phone. I can plug in my own music.
In the old days, you had to listen to Dr. Laura if you were lucky.
Or now you have Delilah.
Yeah.
She's all over the country, right? That soft rock
Terrestrial.
DJ.
Right, that's a terrestrial radio thing, right?
Right. It's a recorded and it's never, makes sense what she's saying, but it's all general. It's never specific. But yeah, I got books on tape on the app I can listen to, whatever, and it does kill the time. So
And sports too.
And sports, you got the
Listen
XM radio. You can always
anything.
find your team.
Yeah.
So I prefer, and like this. Well, if you get this up before Sunday, well, listen to this on the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I moved down here from around the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. A little place called Johnstown. And we have to drive up there and back so much that I sometimes wonder whether it'd be better to fly. But I've never flown before, which means I'm in that little thing of, okay, I've never flown before, so it's better to drive. But then again, it's
Flying
faster
is
to
cool.
fly.
You should fly to just to get the experience.
Yeah.
I grew up flying. My father worked for Pan Am. Remember Pan Am?
Yep.
You don't remember Pan Am, but that was an airline. That was a very big airline back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and in the 80s it had some trouble. My father lost his job in 1989, I believe, when they closed down. But so my dad was an airline mechanic, and my grandparents lived in Florida, and they'd get vacation in the summer from school, and my dad had vacation. Every summer we'd fly down to Disney or down to Florida.
That was the perks of his job.
And back then you got pretty much for free if you were an employee, So
Yeah.
I grew up since my first time on an airplane, I was probably 4 months old,
Wow.
So I've flown my whole life, but you should do it just for the experience of it.
Yeah.
And this, I want to say, there's something very sacrilegious about our host Tyler here.
What's that?
He is a born and raised Pittsburgh native, but he roots for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my God.
And I think that is
How
a
did
sin.
happen?
That is a sin. That's like being a Wisconsin guy and being a Minnesota Viking fan.
Right, or
You know?
Chicago Bears is
Or
worse.
Bears or anybody in the Lions, anybody in your division.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that happened, but there is a Dallas, Pennsylvania. That I know.
Is that why? Or
No.
No, it's nowhere near where
you like the
I think I
uniforms?
just chose the Cowboys because I didn't want to be a Steelers fan, and I think that's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, you want to be a rebel, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
There you go.
No, and hence the reason he was booted from Pittsburgh and he lives in South Carolina.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is not a good city to
To be
root for
against a
different
team,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
They live for that.
Yeah, it's a good town though, Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whenever we're up there, whenever someone asks me, "Are you a Steelers fan?" I'm like, I'm not much into football.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
even debate.
that you can get out of anything that way, but like, hey, okay, well, leave the kid alone.
Yeah.
If you say I'm a Cowboys fan, they're like, "All right, do you want us to kill you now or now?"
Yeah.
Well, Cowboys is a big no-no in Wisconsin too. For some reason,
All
because
of
the
them.
Ice Bowl. Remember the Ice Bowl?
Uh-huh.
That was. I remember watching that on a little black and white TV. I was 8 years old,
Wow.
and my dad and I watched the Ice Bowl. Where, Bart Starr came in,
Yep.
and we made the playoffs. It was 20 degrees below zero.
Yeah, it was like playing on a sheet
Sounds
of
nice.
ice. Yeah, it's
Everyone was just in their snowmobile suits in the crowd.
yeah. Those what do the Eskimos wear? Those
Yeah, in Wisconsin too, they don't have individual seats. I mean, it's like
Benches.
Yeah, they have benches, and then you got your number there. And when they calculated the number, they didn't really calculate how big Wisconsin posteriors are. So.
right. Cheese and beer. I mean, It's
I know. And then you're wearing all these the Gore-Tex stuff, so you just gotta squish into your seat and and you can't move. I mean, there's no
Do
leeway.
the benches have backs?
Nope.
Seat backs?
You
See
can
that?
bring your own.
Yeah, I was in Buffalo. I had that. I don't know how they are now, but I was up in Buffalo for a football game, and they had the same thing, benches. And I don't mind the benches, but without a back, it's just after
you hurt.
watching a game for 4 hours, man.
Yeah.
And I have a bad lower back, so I'm like, oh, this is brutal. I can't even, sit upright. I'm
Yeah.
leaning, But anyway,
We
Yeah.
stand mostly.
Negative 20, I'd be in this with a light jacket.
I mean, that's -20 was the temperature, but with the wind chill factor, it was like -30 or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
it's basically you spit and you see ice
Yes.
come out of your mouth.
It hurts to breathe.
Yeah.
It actually hurts to breathe. So you just have to. Your lungs are saying, "Warm that shit up before you bring it down here."
And actually, alcohol is the worst thing in that weather to be doing to your body because it lowers your body temperature.
And everyone's drinking snowshoe. That's a schnapps and brandy, and they're.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drunk people at that place.
Yeah. Good place to bring the kids.
Oh, well, absolutely. I'm sure it's wonderful for the kids.
What not to do? Yeah. It's now, see, Jimmy, this is what you're not going to grow up to be.
Look at your Uncle Lou over there.
Yeah.
So, how long have each of you been in the company? I know you mentioned it earlier, but just to remind me.
I'm 20 years in now. I started in 1998, and my anniversary of comedy was in July, and my good friend here just celebrated 30 years.
30 years, yep. 88.
Congratulations.
This was my first gig was Bismarck, North Dakota. Oh, no, it was, where was it? The first paid gig I ever did was in Escanaba, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And I remember driving, I was at an open mic, and the guy goes, hey, Brackenridge, you got a half hour, don't you? And I go, sure. And I didn't.
Yeah,
I had
right.
if I had 10 minutes, I was lucky.
Right. You're going to fill it with crowd work. What do you do for a living?
Yeah, it was like my third open mic, but yet I had been in like an improv troupe, so they thought maybe I had some chops.
Right.
So he just says, I can't do this gig. They'll pay you $200 if you just drive over to Escanaba. So I'm like, $200? That's rent. You know?
Back in 88, $200 is like $2,000 today.
It was $175 for rent, so I was like, I have $25 to do whatever I want with. And that bought enough gas to go there.
And groceries and stuff, yeah.
So, yeah, and I wrote the act just on a pad while I was driving. There was an 8-hour drive, and I'm just writing down these little bits, and I still do that act to this day. It took me 8 hours.
And he's still making the same money per gig, too.
Oh, yeah, $200. I just did Escanaba last week, and it was
It's still
$200. Yeah.
How come the money doesn't go up? But and then you get to these dumps that we do, and we take the gigs because we're workaholics.
Yeah, and
but
now
you get
rent is a little
the
more.
money never goes up, but then they want you to do more time. What can you do? 55, 60? I'm like, pay me. You know?
I showed up at places where the middle act doesn't show up, and I just say out. They go, can you just do his time? And I go, yeah, you give me his money, I'll do his time. You know.
Oh, if they give it to you, so you make an extra 50.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's the thing. I remember that when I started, I did open mics and everything, and then the guy that ran the Wednesday night show said to me, "Can you host next week? It pays $50, and you get a meal from the bar. You know, you get wings or a chicken sandwich or a burger or something." And I was like, "Yeah, $50." And that's when I realized there's money to be made in this business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy, and it still pays $50 that gig.
So let me get this straight. Everything except for the pay inflated.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I make a really decent living now, and there's gigs that do pay very well.
And there's gigs that didn't exist back then. Like,
Right.
There's casinos, and there's
Right.
You were just talking about the theaters. You know,
Theaters,
No one
casinos,
did theaters
and
back
there's
then.
a whole generation of senior citizens now that live in the New York and New Jersey area in gated 55 and over communities, and they have theaters in there, and now there's more outlets for, if you can work clean, you can work at these venues, and they pay pretty well. So there's money to be made now, and like I said, if you, like when we're local, we draw in our own areas, and then we can make door deals with them and get paid a lot more for one night. But still, you can go, this business is so a roller coaster, you can make, $3,000 one weekend, and then the next week you make it 300, and
Right.
you're like,
It evens out.
yeah. So it's crazy, unless you're a star. If you're a star,
Then you're making.
you ride the wave and you make as much money as you can make while it lasts.
Yep.
Yeah. So you lack the star.
Yeah. Well, we're working on it.
Yeah.
I guess I would say I'm semi-famous in the tri-state area. That's where I'll make my bones and my most money.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to translate that down to, like, next time when I come down here, hopefully the Amazon special will pick up and more people will come out to see me because they know who I am.
Yep, and I
Yeah.
can't walk down the streets of Waiawega or Oconomowoc without being accosted by at least couple, 2, 3 guys saying, "Hey, are you that guy that does the Erno thing?"
Isn't that a quinky dinky doodle?
Oh, you're the guy. That's the one guy that makes them funny faces.
Look, Helen, it's the clown.
Oh, crazy, yeah. We seen ya.
Yeah.
Over at the comedy club.
Yeah.
Everything's called a comedy club. You going to comedy club tonight? Yeah. Comedy club.
Oh, that's funny. So, but yeah, hopefully next time Mr. Rob and I do tour the country.
Yeah.
It's Wisconsin, New York, cheese and pizza. Or
Yeah,
we'll call it mac and cheese. Or
Yeah,
Monty
you
and
have to have a name for it, because I tour with some guys through Wisconsin. We call ourselves the Cheese Balls. That's Mike Merrifield. You had him on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And we tour as the Cheese Balls. And so what will we be?
I don't know. I could be
the
like
Meatballs Cheese Ball.
meatballs and cheese balls or something like that.
Meat and Cheese Balls.
Yeah. How about that? How about cheesy balls?
But people think
I'll hold meatballs, and you'll be shredding a big thing of
Shredding.
Wisconsin cheddar on it, and we'll make a funny poster, and it'll be cheesy balls.
Yeah, and we got the whole country covered.
Yeah, and that's it. We can do the Midwest and the East Coast, and just tour.
Just do. Oh,
Yeah, just don't let some kids see it.
We'll make some funny videos to go with it.
Sure. And then once that goes viral, then you can write your own ticket. And my buddy's been doing, like I said, 35 years in comedy, and he just did this dry bar comedy thing, and he's viral. He commands. He can just walk into clubs and take a Sunday night now and just take the door.
Now, that video he put on himself?
Nope. It was through these people in Salt Lake City.
Right.
And they did. It's called Dry Bar.
So you
Comedy.
can submit your thing to them. You can submit your videos
I did
to
submit.
them?
Yep, I submitted my stuff to them, so I'm just waiting to hear now. But I'm sure. I mean, everyone's been doing this dry bar thing, so that guy's being inundated by hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Right, so it's going to take a year for them to look at your stuff. And in the first, if you don't get them in the first, minute, they're probably like, all right, move on to the next guy.
Right. Hey, you got to have patience to be in this business,
Oh, absolutely. Listen, fame can come at any time. I know.
Yeah.
I have a friend back home. He might even work down here, Vic DiPotetto.
Don't recognize it.
But he did a.
Oh, Vicky Two Tits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, how about that guy?
he did a video on YouTube about the snow coming and getting milk and bread. Got to go to the, and it was a 30-second video, and he got he's got like 10 million hits on the thing. Next thing he's on the news. Next thing he's in a movie. Then he has his own Hulu show, and now he's touring all over and
You
he's
get a
making door
Netflix.
deals.
Yeah, I think the goal of a lot of guys these days, it used to be get on Carson, if that would make it.
Right.
Now, if you get a Netflix special, everyone wants to get a Netflix special.
Right, because
Yeah.
it's the most watched,
Yep.
thing. I got the Amazon special, but
Yeah,
Amazon's
Amazon's
still in its, I think, infancy stages where it's going to be in the next 5 years. It'll be just as popular because I mean, today your generation, you don't want to be trapped and sit on a couch in front of a TV. You want to be able to on the go watch something on your phone,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, people don't have patience these days.
No attention span.
No attention span. You gotta be quick, get in, get out, watch the comedy. Ha, okay, on to the next thing.
Yep.
I'm one of the few lucky ones who actually does have an attention span.
Yeah.
Which has actually made it so that whenever I interact with kids my age, we literally I want to kill him, and he wants to just leave because I'm apparently boring.
Right.
Right.
You're acting too much like a grown-up.
Yes.
Yep. You're an old soul.
Well, keep that,
Tyler. An old
because
soul.
you need to
Yeah.
be connected with people and be present. Nobody's present anymore when you're talking to them. They're in their phones.
Mm-hmm. It's like talking to people at the Improv. They're always looking past you. They're,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you talking about?
Yeah. We just lost Tyler.
Yeah, he went right to his phone.
All right. All right.
How we doing on time? We good
Yeah.
on time? We need to make a break.
Break.
Well, we're running short on time, so one final question for both of you. If you can give advice for someone who wants to come into comedy, or advice to say you really shouldn't be someone coming into comedy, what would that be?
You'd have to see their act first.
Yeah.
Because if they're really, you can tell some guys that are up there, they could get good.
Yeah, you can tell
I
when
think you can
someone's
tell
got
when-
it, and then when someone's just like,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I say, listen, life's short. Do what you want to do in life. If you want to take a hand at show business, I do it for a living, he does it for a living, and like I said, it's not all red carpet and Oscars and stuff, but
Yeah.
we still would rather do this than anything else.
Yeah.
We make a living at it, so we are successful.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was a theater major in college, and I always wanted to be an actor, but it's just auditioning and
Yeah.
stuff, and then you don't really. But with stand-up, you can create something, do your own blocking, do all your own stuff. So I really get that same outlet when I'm on stage. I get
So I would say just do it.
Do it.
I would educate yourself. Like when I started, I did open mics, and you can pick up bad habits if you just do open mics and you don't listen to the older comics that give you a little bit of advice of don't attack the audience, don't be filthy, don't be whatever.
slow down.
And
That's
I
the
took
main thing.
and
Slow
I
it
took some
down.
classes. There's some really good classes out there. There's some veterans that teach. So if there's something like that is available to somebody wanting to start, I would.
I did. I took a class from Joel Hodgson.
Yeah.
That guy at Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
That was my first class. Did you take a class?
I took a class with a guy named Peter Bales that's been around for probably 40 years in the business. Used to tour with Rodney Dangerfield. Used to write jokes for Rodney. Used to tour with the man you were talking about before the show, Jackie Martling, good friend.
Yeah.
So he was also a teacher. He was a professor in college and a stand-up comic that had a career, but then when it got to a point where it wasn't going the way he wanted, he went back to teaching and did comedy, moonlighting. He still does.
Yeah.
But very good teacher. He's been up and down the business. He's had almost the big breaks and all the heartbreaks and all that, and he could teach a lot. So I would say take a class.
That's good advice. Just stay in it as long as you love it. If you don't love it anymore, have a plan.
When it becomes a job, you got to get out.
Have a plan, and have a plan B, like teaching.
Like me, I don't have a plan. Like
I don't
it's either this or I got to go back to robbing banks or something.
Bartending.
Yeah. We could always be a bartender. I was a waiter, but I'm pretty much going to be, I'd be a 60-year-old. You guys want dessert?
Yeah, because comedy is a job you don't ever have to quit. You don't ever have to leave because it's like a pope job,
Right.
Like once you're pope for
You
life.
die till you die.
Once you're a comedian, you're a comedian.
I mean, look at most comedians don't retire. Rodney was up there right until his last days. Don Rickles was performing right till
I can't imagine what retiring would be like. I mean, because if you say, okay, I'm retired, and then some guy goes, I'll give you $3,000 to do this gig, you go, oh, well, I'll take that.
Right.
I'm out of retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Billy Joel, he's semi-retired now. He does one weekend a month or whatever up in New York City, and makes probably $60 million for the night and goes home.
Yep. And I used to do like 150 gigs a year. Now I'm down to about 80. So it's really gone. I don't have to make as much money as I used to.
You can make more for less gigs.
Well, I was living in Los Angeles, and it was very expensive,
Right.
and I know your rent is very expensive too.
Yeah,
but
New York.
Wisconsin's a little cheaper.
Yeah. I got to get a summer house there.
Yeah, you should. It's a beautiful place.
All right.
Not a winter house, though.
Well, I thank you for being here and talking to me.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Have a good one.